Well, good morning and hello, everyone. Welcome to Hiring for Good podcast. I am Tanis Morris of Acumen Executive Search, and with me, as usual, is my lovely co-host, Suzanne Hannafin.
Well, good morning, Tanis.
Hello, Suzanne. And boy, are we excited to have our guest today, Michael Eshelby. I'm going to say just a few words about you, Michael, and then we'll get rolling. So Michael is the founder and president of Michael's Messenger Service, a courier company based in Dallas, Oregon. The company was established in 2010, and it provides delivery services to a diverse clientele, including hospitals, medical centers, long-term care facilities, laboratories, banks, credit unions, utilities, and a variety of other businesses. Under Michael's leadership, MMS has expanded its operations across Oregon, Washington, and Idaho, partnering with other logistics firms to enhance service coverage. Despite the company's success, Michael remains humble and approachable, and always down to earth. Michael's commitment to agility, accuracy, and accessibility has been fundamental to MMS's reputation for reliable and responsive service. His leadership style emphasizes the importance of listening, transparent communication, and building strong and meaningful partnerships with both coworkers and clients. Michael, welcome to Hiring for Good.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So usually we start off these interviews by asking our guests kind of just to tell us a little bit about how they got to where they are today. But I think before we even do that, is there anything that I missed describing your business or service? Because we want to be sure that before we explain how you got here, that people actually know what you're doing.
No, you're spot on.
Okay, perfect. Well, then with that, we'll go ahead and ask you to tell us what I know is a very fascinating story. And go ahead and just go deep because it's really good.
Okay. Started in 2010. It was more out of a survival situation where I'd gone through a divorce and ended up with just a two-door Toyota Yaris hatchback vehicle as the only thing left in my name. Lived a good part of the last half of 2010 and a chunk of 2011 at a rest area in that car. And observed every vice you can imagine that happens at a rest area. And had two little kids, couldn't support them. Overdrawn bank account. Every rock bottom thing you can probably imagine. So I was asleep, and I wish I could recall exactly when it was, but it was at the restaurant in the car. And I woke up and I said, look, you have to figure out a way to make this one asset make you money. And I had a friend that I would go and crash at from time to time and ask the friend if I could borrow the money to get a box of 500 business cards made. And after that happened, just walked around Portland and Vancouver, and anyone who would give me the 20 seconds of time to give them the quick spiel of, hey, if you have anything that you need delivered and will fit in my little tiny car, I'd be happy to do it for you. And I got some, one-offs here and there. I went to churches on Sundays, same thing, spoke to the pastor, said if any of your parishioners, have anything that they need to be delivered, happy to do it. Again, got nibbles, but nothing that really stuck. And in the fall of 2011, went into an unmarked Class A office space, just a single-story brick that had a lot of different tenants in it, and gave this spiel to the receptionist there. And there was a gentleman standing behind her making copies, and he turned around and he said, "Let me see your car." And at the time, of course, I'm thinking, oh God, hope he doesn't want to see inside because that's where all my belongings are. It's a mess. So no, he eyeballed it and asked if I could show up that evening at 8:00 at night. And I said, well, what exactly for? It seems a little odd, but he explained, this is a long-term care pharmacy. We provide medications to long-term care facilities, and I have a current courier service that has delivered the wrong stuff to the wrong facilities on a regular basis. We're about to lose a handful of care facilities because of it. So I went to the same buddy's house that loaned me the money for the 500 business cards, dropped all my stuff, took a nap, shower, came back at 8:00, went through the process of it was very simple after it was explained. These are totes of medications. They're clearly marked and they're labeled. Each tote is labeled where it's supposed to go to. I couldn't understand how in the world the mistakes were happening because they were very, very clear. And everything fit, thankfully, and proceeded, to just go over to make sure the steps. The nurses are going to check this stuff out. They're going to sign everything. You bring the paperwork back when you're done. They're going to potentially hand you medications. They need to come back to the pharmacy. And we just went over, I believe there's maybe a dozen stops that were started south of Portland down to Eugene, all the way to Ashland and back up. And gave me a cell phone number, said, if you have any issues whatsoever, please call me. I don't care if 2:00 in the morning, 3:00 in the morning, doesn't matter. So as I was just triple checking to make sure that I didn't miss anything, because it just in my mind seems so simple. And he goes, oh, by the way, what would you charge to do this? And I had no idea. I said, well, what's the current service charging you? And he said, it's $300 a night. And I can see it like it happened yesterday. I had to turn around because I was tearing up. I thought I just won the lottery. I could not believe that something this simple, and all of a sudden, I had an opportunity to make that kind of money, which at the time in my mind was, mind-blowing. So,
and it was more than just one night, right? It was how many nights a week?
Well, at the time, this was just a one-night opportunity.
Try.
To see how well I did. And so no issues, got it done, got back, I believe, around 6 a.m., maybe 7 o'clock the following morning. And he was there. I kind of debriefed on how it went, and then he asked, he goes, can you do it again tonight? And went into, this is 7 nights a week. Oh. And I just, I'm fairly decent at doing math. And so my quick math in my head of 30 days in a month at $300, that's $9,000. I just went from being overdrawn in a checking account to, making over $100,000 a year on doing this run in a vehicle that's really tailor-made for it. I got great gas mileage. Everything just, it was the right equipment. It was the right time. It was, so that's how I got started. And, the funny thing is that pharmacy has been purchased 3 times since, and they're now owned by a national long-term care pharmacy, private equity group. Still have him as a client.
Wow.
The gentleman still works there, and he has no idea of the story. I hope he does not see this, to be honest with you. I want to keep it that way. Okay. But yeah, that's how I got started.
And where are you today? Because today to be in Washington, Idaho, Oregon. How large are you?
How many
Yeah.
cars do you have going?
Well,
out
we
every day?
use an independent contractor driver model, so we have about any given day a couple hundred drivers running around in 8 states. And it's all similar, small parcel, they're using their own vehicles, type of thing.
So, Michael, one of the reasons we started this podcast is because the work that we do in executive search always begins with sitting down with a company leader and understanding, not just who they're hiring and what they're looking for, but kind of where they came from.
Yeah.
And your story is hands down my I think probably the most impactful story related to how someone began their business that I've heard, honestly. And I'm so happy that you're here because I love it. How did you scale from you in your Toyota Yaris to hundreds of cars going out every single day and operations in all these states and the whole warehouses and all the...
Yeah, I mean, it was, I just do a lot by feel, gut intuition. I've made probably more mistakes in the process than any human can possibly make. I've started using family and friends because they started offering me, more and more routes to run at the same time. A lot of their stuff releases in the evening. So I would ask family, I would ask friends, and then, I put an ad on Craigslist, of all things, found a few folks that way. And then started doing more, conventional. I reached out to you, and you found some folks for me, and but when I started, it was very shoot from the hip. Whatever I could figure out. I'm just a figure it out type of person, and it may not be it's one option. It may not be the best option, but it's one option, and then I'll refine it. I think that's pretty much what I've done for the last 14 years is, I'll figure out a solution, and then I'll figure out that it's not the best one, and we'll refine it. But it's, now, I think I have some pretty efficient processes in finding talent and, drivers and administrative support staff. But I'm driven by the fact that I never want to go back to that rest area again.
Yeah.
And since it's a very common one along I-5, I almost see it every single day. And so that's very motivating to me.
But there is a lot that went into it. When you were sharing your story, the first word that came to my mind was perseverance. You made a decision and you said, I'm going to do it. You got the 500 business cards. I can't imagine how many no's you had.
Yeah, the one thing I
Yeah.
think I do wish I would remember is how many cards were left.
Yeah.
It had to be less than 50.
Oh my
in the
God.
box. I mean, I was,
You were knocking on a
so,
lot of doors.
Yeah, I heard no all the time. But, when you do hear that yes, for me, it just, okay, there's one. I know there's got to be another one.
Do you know how
So-
long it took from when you made that decision? This is, again, I'm going to utilize my one asset.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. To that first one, was it just days or months or?
You mean the first one-off?
No. When you got
Something regular?
Regular.
Yeah. It was a year.
It was a year.
It was because the late summer, early fall of 2010 is when I started, and I didn't get that nighttime run until the fall of 2011.
Wow.
So it was a year of
Just
So-
here and there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So you've already kind of acknowledged the idea that you've had some mistakes along the way and learned from them. That's kind of the next question that I have is, what would you say are the most formative experiences aside from your experience at the rest stop? along the path to growing your company and scaling, what would you say are really, things you've gone through that have kind of shaped either who you are as a leader or as a business person?
I think the one thing that I realized is finding talent is an enormous key to making my life easier. And being able to relinquish the constant hands-on of everything, every system, every process, and just trusting the talent. That's really hard. I think I took another leap in the business when I finally put the trust in the people that I bring on. And I do that a lot now. I just find someone, I'll say, Tanis, find me this person, we'll get them. And I just tell them what I need and get out of the way. And,
But it has to be, so when you're looking at talent and talking to people, are there certain characteristics that you look for in that person?
Yeah, I ask them all about their family. I don't ask them anything about the actual tasks of the job. I just want to know about, give me we talk a lot about their personal life because I want to know how they're built.
And what do you look for? Like, is it?
Same type of thing. Someone who's got fire and perseverance and self-motivation and, willing to do whatever it takes. And usually your family or your personal life is going to really test you. Like, I don't think there's anything professionally that can test you as much as what goes on in your personal life.
Oh, no, I get that because I hired my son once when he was in high school and had to fire him. And it's brought up every holiday for my other kids.
It's very impactful. Yeah. So that's what I talk about the most when I'm, interviewing. Is I want to know about how you're built, and and I've made poor hires, but I think the best ones are because of I felt that they were really put in tough spots and they persevered.
Yeah.
So we say, the culture of an organization really does begin with whoever's at the top. And of course, every manager, people bring their own flavor to that culture throughout an organizational structure. But whoever's at the top has a tremendous amount of impact and sets the stage for the culture. So when you're thinking about your personal values and your mission, how do you operationalize that at MMS? How do you translate those values throughout your teams and throughout operations?
Well, because of the industry that we serve, which is primarily healthcare related, it's pretty easy for me to say, hey, we're doing this. You'll never meet probably the recipient of whatever it is that we're moving for the client, but that patient or whoever the person is that's related to the object that we're moving, could be your mom, dad, brother, sister, uncle, aunt, grandma, grandpa, and the stuff that we move, it's critically vital. It's, we're not moving reams of paper for Office Depot. We are moving critically vital stuff. For many, many patients, it's life-preserving stuff. And so that's the type of driver that we look for to partner with. Just make sure that you have that compassion. We can teach you how to make sure you have the proper proof of delivery, but I want to know that if something gets in your possession, you're going to move heaven and earth to make sure that it gets there. When we promise the client it's going to get there, that is critical. And it's if you use that example, I've been fortunate to where that weeds out a few folks, and you can't bat 1,000. some people will say all the right stuff and then their performance doesn't back it up. But most of the time, you can vet them fairly well, and when they hear that, oh, okay, I get what you mean. So.
No, I think that's amazing. And again, you're starting it at the higher. You're setting those expectations that you're going to deliver, period.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it goes back to that perseverance. You're going to make it happen. Are you self-motivated? And really having that clear understanding of those values as you hire people throughout the organization. So as you look back, again, what an incredible journey, Michael, and very impressive. But when you look back, what advice would you give your younger self?
Oh, that's a good question. I think a lot of people say, do what you really love to do, and then, you can figure out how to monetize it. Well, shoot, I didn't learn, I'm 55 years old. I didn't figure this out till I was 41. So, I mean, sometimes that's half of somebody's life. I will say it's really easy, though, to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning when you love what you do. And so I can see that that's a good piece of advice, so I guess that's probably what I would, I'm probably would be along those same lines.
I think you're too humble. I mean, I feel like you've told this incredible story that, like, when you feel like you've hit a brick wall in your life, you can like take stock of what you have and create like an amazing solution and build a future on that. I mean, it's pretty impressive. Yeah. Maybe I have some advice from you.
the motivation, I think, when you have 2 young kids that you cannot take care of.
Yeah.
I think generally speaking, in guys, we have that we're born with the protect and provide, traits. And when you can't do either, I think it really, and if you have to, thankfully I was able to battle, because I very easily, I can't tell you guys how many times I could turn 6 feet to my left or 6 feet to my right while I'm sitting in my car, and I could watch people put needles in their arms.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I mean, I must have watched that happen hundreds of times.
Wow.
So that was always an option. But thankfully, I was able to, keep a clear enough vision, like, look, that's not going to take care of your kids.
Right.
So I think that was my big motivation is, I have an obligation and I'm not meeting the obligation, and you better figure it out.
So I have a question really fast. It seems like some of your motivating factor is fear.
Absolutely.
Right.
It still is to this day.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose clients because they help not only now take care of myself, but essentially about 250 other people and their families.
Yeah.
Which is super important to me.
So what's your wisdom or advice surrounding fear? I'm just curious because it's a strong motivator, but it can be a harsh master too.
Absolutely. So, it's a very fine line, and if you can harness it in the right way, it can be super powerful in a positive way. So
how does one do that?
I don't know. I mean, I guess looking back, I was able to do it and manage it in a positive manner. I think you have to have why are you doing anything in the back of your mind, and my kids were my why, they always are, even now. So as long as you have that, I believe that'll help keep you down the right path. May not always.
How has your story affected your children?
Well, I think they have benefited in ways now. I don't think they really know the detail of my story. It's not something I'd like to, I'm proud of broadcasting. When you're living in a rest area, it's not exactly, you want to put that on a billboard anywhere. But I think what came of it, turned out okay. And, but yeah, they've benefited it now, greatly from it.
They must be really proud of you.
Well, I don't think they really that's what I'm saying, Tanis,
Yeah.
is I'm not sure, because I have not sat down and given this much
Yeah.
detail to them, nor have they asked.
But I find it inspiring,
Very.
and hopeful.
Amazing.
That you could be at a place that you are looking to your left and your right and saying, I'm not going to stay here. And it's easy to give up. It's easy to succumb to whatever. But what you said of always having that why, and then again, perseverance. I'm not going to quit. It's a very, very powerful story. And I think a lot of people resonate from it. Mm-hmm. There's times that, in my little privileged life, I'm like, oh, I'm exhausted. I'm tired. Oh, wow. Knock it off. Get up and do something. And yeah.
Well, the first time you told me this story, I was like, you have to write a book. You need to tell this
I
story.
remember that. You did
I
say
did.
that.
And
Yes,
you were said, oh, no one needs to know about this.
Yeah,
Someone else said
right.
that to me one time. So first of all, thank you. I'm so glad that after 2 years almost that I've got you and that you are telling the story, because just like that day, today, I believe this is a tremendously impactful story that will be really inspiring to our audience. And maybe if anyone that didn't know the story that knows you hears it, I would bet they're going to be blown away, because I know you're a pretty humble, reserved guy, and you don't walk around broadcasting what I consider to be a tremendous accomplishment. Mm-hmm. You can ask the last question, Suzanne.
So Michael, the podcast is called Hiring for Good. And this is going to be really insightful. What does hiring for good mean for you? I mean, you said it. You have 200 plus people relying on you, their families. So what does hiring for good mean?
Well, I think what we do collectively as an organization, and everyone that's directly or indirectly involved, I think we do some good stuff. We may not realize it, when we're in the heat of the battle, fighting traffic and road construction and inclement weather and anything else that we some of our nuclear medicine deliveries that you got to yank off of a plane and drive 3 states away to get it delivered in 12 hours, and your GPS tells you, well, it's going to take you 11, so hopefully you don't have any hiccups along the way, and the patient's sitting there in an oncology office counting on you, and there's a real short shelf life on the product. That's some good, that's good. That's really good for a complete stranger of whom you'll never meet. But if you can get 1 or 2 of those in a year, you count yourself lucky. Like, that's doing good stuff. I hope I answered your question. That's what that means to me. Like, that, I think, is what it's motivating. I didn't realize, even on getting the initial work, what the work was. And then in experiencing, some of the indirect great benefits, which is, and again, this is super simple. Like what I do is not complicated. Anyone can do it. It's, you knock on someone's door, you don't realize they're a hospice patient, and you have no clue what's in the little bag you have in your hand because it's all sealed up, and they happen to be physically able to still answer the door because there's a nurse there waiting to administer whatever it is you have, and you hand it to them. They know what it is. They start crying. Like a complete stranger, they just start crying. Like you haven't even asked them, hey, what's your name, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, that's rewarding. Like whatever it is that you have, and you had no idea what it was. You're just making a delivery. I mean, I know I'm dumbing it down, but honestly, it's that simple. If you can get that once a year, that'll motivate. It should motivate the right person for the rest of the year to do that. And it happens. It happens more frequently than you think. And that's it. Talking about doing good. What is good? To me, that's good.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything better than to help a complete stranger. I mean, I saw these strangers just destroying themselves, and it's like you want to, help someone, and who's willing to take the help. And so, anyway, I think that's doing good.
Oh, I agree, and we talk about it in our job all the time. We change people's lives.
Yeah.
You change people's lives.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for coming. Thanks for telling us your story and sharing your thoughts and wisdom.
And I'm going to say, I hope your kids see this. I'm sharing this with my kids. So.
You can share them with yours. Hopefully your kids don't know mine.
Thank you so much, Michael. We're honored that you are a guest today.
No, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for joining us today at Hiring for Good. If you were inspired by our conversation, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
And if you want to learn more about our executive search services, check us out at www.hiringforgood.net or our company website, Acumen Executive Search.
Thanks so much, and don't forget to join us next time for another in-depth conversation about transformational leadership. Until then, have fun.